Good morning, dear. Today we are going to talk about Unit 3, Inheritance of Traits, Chapter 2, the interaction of genes. We said before that each pair of alternative character is called allelomorphic characters or contrasting characters. In case of Mendel's character, when crossing occurs between two pure homozygous individuals, one of them has the dominant character and the other one having the recessive character, the individuals of the first generation will all show the dominant character with ratio 100%, while the two characters, the dominant and the recessive characters, appear in ratio 3:1 in the second generation. This genetic pattern is called the complete dominance. So, according to Mendel's laws, the genetic pattern here is called the complete dominance. Gregor Mendel arrived to that each trait is controlled by one pair of genes or two genes. The genes are two types. As Mendel said, that we have what's called dominant gene and the other type is called recessive gene. Mendel said that when the dominant gene meets the recessive gene, the dominant gene dominates over the recessive one. This is called the laws of complete dominance. Later, scientists found that several traits were not inherited according to Mendel's laws, and they are called non-Mendelian characteristics. They include cases which the emergence of genetic trait is affected by the interaction of the allelomorphic genes. The interaction of genes or non-Mendelian characteristics, we are going to talk about three cases. Number one, the lack of dominance. Number two, the complementary genes. And number three, lethal genes. Let's talk about number one, lack of dominance. It is a genetic case in which the character or the trait is controlled by a pair of genes or two genes, but no one dominates over the other. Let's talk about the inheritance of the flower color character in Anthurium plant. This is an example of lack of dominance. When mating occurs between red flower plant and white flower plant, you give here the red flower R capital, and the white one W capital, W capital. It means there is no character or no gene dominates over the other. There is a case called lack of dominance, where the two genes are dominant. When the two genes meet each other, so a new trait appears. So the first step, the gamete formation. As the parent R capital, so we have two types of gametes. Gamete carries gene R capital and other gamete carries the R capital gene. And also the other parent W capital, so we have two types of gametes. Gamete carries W capital and the other gamete also carries W capital. So we will find that the first generation all are W. It means we have new trait mix between the red color and the white color, as the red gene, which is represented by R capital, and the white gene, which is represented by the W capital, both genes are dominant, or both genes are strong. There is no one dominates over the other. Both are dominant. So when they meet together, they form a new trait, which is called here the purple. So we have 100% in the first generation carries a new trait, which is purple color flower. At the second parents, we have two purple flowers, RW with RW. So the gametes are R capital, W capital, and R capital, W capital. As we said before, the first gamete after mating or after fertilization, the first gamete with the first gamete. Then the first with the second, second with first, then second with second. So we have one red flower, R capital, two purple flowers, R capital, W capital, and one white flower, W capital, W capital. So it means that the ratio will be 1 to 2 to 1, or 25% to 50% to 25%. This case is called the lack of dominance, as the trait represented by two genes, but no gene dominates over the other. The both genes are strong. Both genes are strong. When they meet together, they give a new trait. The example here, the inheritance of the flower color character in Anthurium plant. Okay? Let's talk about the inheritance of the blood groups in humans. So, first, we are going to talk about the genetic classification of the blood groups. As we said before, that the blood components are constant in all humans, as our blood consists of solid substances, which are red blood cells or RBCs, white blood cells or YBCs, and platelets, which are responsible for the blood clotting process. While the liquid part of the blood is called the plasma. And the percentage of the plasma in the blood, about 54% of the total volume of the blood. So the blood totally in the liquid form. But blood differs in blood groups between individuals, as the blood transfusion processes depend on the type of the blood group and the type of what's called rhesus factor or RH factor. In the next slide, we are going to explain the blood groups and the RH factor. First, we have to know that the blood group trait or the inheritance of the blood group here doesn't follow Mendel's law in certain cases, where Mendel said that the blood or the trait is controlled by two genes or pair of genes, but the blood group character is controlled by three types of genes here, called alleles. These genes are called gene A, gene B, and gene O. So, the blood group character is controlled by three genes, not two genes. So there is a difference here between the inheritance of the blood group and Mendel's law, because Mendel said that each trait is controlled by only one pair of genes or two genes, but the blood group character is controlled by three types of genes, gene A, gene B, and gene O. The genes of the blood groups are located on the 9th chromosomal pair in all humans. So we can say that the blood group character includes three patterns of heredity. What are these three patterns? Number one, we can see multiple alleles, because the blood group's trait is controlled by three genes, gene A, gene B, and gene O. So we call this case multiple alleles. And the individual of us, each individual has only one pair. It means all of us have one pair or two genes. From the three genes, we have two. The second case, we can see a case of complete dominance in the blood group character, as both genes A and gene B dominate over the gene O. So it means that gene A is dominant while gene O is recessive. Also gene B is dominant and gene O is recessive. So when the individual has, for example, gene A and gene O, so we call that this individual has blood group A, as gene A dominates over O. And also, if the individual has genes B and O, so we call that this individual has blood group B, as B dominates over O. And we said that the O is a recessive gene. The third case here is a case of lack of dominance, as there is dominancy between genes A and B. Both of them are strong, and they participate together in the production of new trait, which is called AB. So when the individual has gene A and gene B, so we call that the blood group of this individual is AB, as no gene here dominates over the other. Both genes are strong. So the question here, what are the expected blood groups of offspring when mating between female with blood group O and male with blood group AB? So we can make a problem in a separate paper. We have male with blood group AB, so its genotype is AB also, because we have to write the genotype during the problems of the genetics. The genotype of blood group AB is AB. But the genotype of the female is OO, as the blood group O has a genotype OO. So if we make the problem, we will find that all the offspring, 50% will be A and 50% will be B. The table in front of you, the type of phenotypes in the blood groups and the genotype of the blood groups. So if the individual has a blood group A, so it means that the genotype may be AA or AO, because the trait here is controlled by two genes. So if the individual has two genes, A and other gene A, so the blood group of this individual B will be A. Also, if the individual has two genes, gene A and gene O, so the individual now has a blood group also A, because gene A dominates over O, and the O is recessive gene. About the blood group B, so the genotype of the blood group B is B or PO, as also B dominates over O. The phenotype AB has a genotype AB. That's because gene A and gene B are strong. When they meet together, they form a new trait which is called AB. There is a case of lack of dominance between gene A and gene B. The blood group O, its genotype is OO, as blood group O is recessive and the O is recessive gene. And we said before that the recessive character or the recessive trait is always pure. So the blood group O has a genotype OO.